What's up guys, Tim Little. Welcome back to Tactical Bassin. Today we are talking summertime shallow water fishing. We're gonna talk about some of my favorite techniques and how you can catch them. Topwaters, wake baits, square bills, cranking, worming. We're gonna cover all of it. Let's dive in. So early summertime fishing. Today we're talking about shallow water. In previous videos, we've explained where the bass go post-spawn. Pretty much the fish are gonna split 50-50. Half of them are gonna go out deep to ledges and deep water. That's gonna be there where they live during the summer. And the other half go to the backs of cuts, backs of coves, and that's what we're gonna talk about today. How to catch those fish in less than 5 feet. If you guys haven't seen those videos before where we've talked about that, I'll leave a link up here to some of those transition videos. But today, shallow water fishing, early summer fishing for good fish. Right off the bat, one of the first techniques or first baits that I like to break out is gonna be the wake bait. You know, when your weather conditions start getting up to that, 85 to 100 degree weather temp, it's time to throw topwater. And obviously you're gonna be throwing a frog. Obviously you're gonna be throwing a buzz bait, but a wake bait is a great way to increase your fish size. You know, you'll catch 2-pounders on this bait right here, but you'll also have a shot at catching a possible PB when you're throwing the bigger baits. You're just targeting those bigger fish. This is the Noisy Docks. I absolutely love this wake bait. We've done videos on this specific bait in the past. It's got a great combination between squeak and clack with that tail on there. For those of you that don't know, a wake bait is a topwater bait that you slowly retrieve to you, and it creates a big V on the surface, so those fish can really track that bait. But a wake bait is one of my favorite baits to throw this time of the year, especially if I'm trying to get the bigger bites. I'm gonna try and keep this as easy as possible for you guys. You pond fishermen or you bank fishermen, all of this applies to you because you're fishing out and bringing the bait to you, to shore. So eventually you're gonna get to that shallow water. So frogs, worms, crankbaits, wake baits, buzzbaits, all this stuff that I talk about today applies to you guys as well. I'm gonna try and keep this as easy as possible. I'm gonna kind of break it down into 4 categories. Topwater, flipping, cranking, and like your swim jig chatterbait category, whatever category you wanna call that. So we've already talked about the wake bait. You guys know that throwing a frog this time of the year is one of the best ways, one of the most fun ways to catch them. Again, shallow water, 5 feet or less. These fish are gonna be up into that vegetation, back in these tules, in the reeds, bulrushes, whatever you might have on your body of water, they're gonna be back in that stuff. You know, they don't have eyelids, so they're gonna be up underneath the vegetation in shade looking for ambush points. So we've covered some of this stuff in previous videos, so real quickly, a frog, topwater bait, you're throwing it on straight braid and you're bringing it through that thick cover. And boy, let me tell you, if you guys have never thrown a frog, add a frog to your arsenal this time of the year, you guys will have a blast. I've shot recent videos, I've shot in-depth frog video. I'll also link that up here. But those of you guys that don't know, that's a walking frog. That's a frog that you're gonna cast out and you're gonna twitch, twitch, twitch. You're gonna walk it back to you and it's gonna cut left and right, left and right. We got JD over here, he's throwing a teckle. I got him throwing a straight retrieve frog. You can cover a lot of water, and he's just, I got him working on his bait caster skills. So he's doing a phenomenal job. But that is a very easy bait to cast out and retrieve and really cover a lot of water. Summertime, again, your water temps are rising. Now you have your grass coming up from the bottom, coming up into play. Later on, as we transition into that late summer stuff, then we'll be talking about thick grass and mats. But early summer, you got that sparse grass coming up, you don't really have a lot of mats, so these baits that I talk about today will really help you guys out, and then we'll transition into some different baits later on in the summer. So we got frogs. Let's also talk about toads and buzzbaits. Another bait that is very easy to fish. You literally fire it out there and reel it back. If you stop reeling, it will sink, so don't do that. Fire it out there, reel it back. It's got a blade up top. It makes a lot of commotion on the surface. Another little trick you can do is put like a horny toad or a rage toad on the back. That will help that bait plane out. If you want to skip it up underneath docks, that will help as well. But a buzz bait is another bait you guys should look at adding to your arsenal. And last but not least, the toads, the horny toads. This category is a lot of fun to fish as well. You're fishing for those same fish that you would be throwing a normal frog on, a traditional frog, but you can cover a lot more water, kind of like the straight retrieve, the tackle. This is the Damiki frog. What's cool about this bait versus your traditional horny toad style or your rage toad, this bait actually has air chambers in it, so you get the best of both worlds. You can cover a lot of water like a normal toad, but when you pause it, it will float. You can pause it in place and sit there. When you get to a grass edge or a tule point or something like that, a choke point, you can pause it and get that bite, that reaction bite. Whereas something like the toads, if you pause it, they sink. But again, topwater is probably my favorite way to catch them this time of year. Frogging, buzzbaiting, wakebaiting, and toading, if that makes sense, guys. All right, topwater, we got that kind of covered. Let's talk about flipping, pitching, punching. So we've already covered where these fish are gonna be. They're gonna be up in this stuff, up in this vegetation, up in this structure, up in those ambush points. And one of the best ways to target those fish when they're in that real thick vegetation is flipping, pitching, punching. Flipping and pitching are pretty much the same thing. One, you let line out and you kind of work the bait. The other one, you just kind of, pitch it out there. So I'll put that in one category, and the next category is gonna be punching. You're talking 1 ounce to 2 ounce tungsten weights, 5/0 heavy duty hook, and some kind of creature bait, a beaver or a rage bug or something like that. You're gonna Texas rig this so it's weedless, and this is your presentation right there. You're looking for the real thick stuff, your mats, your grass, your tules. You're gonna pitch this out there and let it fall. It's the best way to target those fish that are back in that deep cover that don't want to commit to a topwater. Couple other baits. In that category, those of you guys that like to throw worms. Again, this is a 6-inch Senko. I throw the 6-inch because it's got a bigger profile. Falls a little bit faster than the 5-inch. I got this rigged on a 5/0 twist lock hook from Owner. But again, you're gonna throw this around the sparse vegetation. You can't get it through the thick mats like you would throw the punch rig. Like these little tule points. Fire this thing out there and let it fall. It's a slow, subtle fall, and it catches good ones. Put the trolling motor on medium high and just go and look for each individual tule point that sticks out, and the fish will be sitting right there. Last but not least is gonna be the jig. How do you talk about flipping and pitching without talking about a jig? 3/8 ounce pitching jig with a beaver style bait on there. The fish are gonna position on those points, those ambush points, the grass lines, and either the Senko or the jig is a great way to target those fish that don't want to come up to topwater. Doing all right back there, bud?
Yeah.
Okay, you want to throw any of these? You can throw any of these. How do you talk about a shallow summer fishing video, shallow water fishing video, without mentioning the Fluke? You know, we've done so many videos in the past about how to rig a fluke, how to fish a fluke, and now is game time. When you have that sparse grass coming up and you can't get a glide bait through or a traditional jerk bait through, a fluke, you get that same erratic action, that twitch, 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 pause. That bait is up there just dancing all over the place. You get that real reactive bite, but you can fish it through that sparse grass that's coming up from the bottom. So a fluke, you pond fishermen, you bank fishermen, a fluke is a must-have. Again, we've done tons of videos in the past on how to fish them, all the gear, all that stuff. We will link that stuff down below in the video description. You know, we are gonna do in-depth videos on all of these techniques moving forward. We've done some in the past. We'll be sure to link those down below. But I just want you guys to start thinking about this transition. You know, Matt did that video a few weeks ago about the fish going out deep, that half of those fish. Today I'm talking about the shallow water fish. But start thinking about what gear you're gonna need for this summertime fishing and get it before everything's sold out. The last category that I wanna talk about is gonna be that cranking, chatterbaiting, swim jigging category. This is another great way to target those reaction fish that won't commit to the frog or topwater, wake baits, whatever it may be, but you still want to cover a lot of water. You know, when you're flipping or pitching with the jig or the Senko or whatever it may be, a slow finesse style bait, you're not covering a lot of water. But when you're firing out a 1/2 ounce swim jig and you're covering 20 or 30 yards every cast, you can really cover a lot of water, find which grass patches have the fish, which are your most productive grass patches around the lake. You can really cover a lot of water and find those active fish, and that's where the chatterbait and the swim jig come in. This is actually a California swim jig. This is a jig that a swim jig that Matt designed several years ago. It's got that no jack hook in there. You take a 1/2 ounce or a 3/4 swim jig, you can throw it right through these toolies, right through your reeds, and reel it through. You can throw it on straight braid if you'd like. Again, those fish are gonna be way back up in that stuff. Fire this out and you just reel it back. It's a swim bait, it's a weedless swim bait. You can throw it, like I said, on the straight braid. You don't have to worry about getting hung up, and they crack it. You get the benefits of a swim bait, being able to fish it through the stuff and cover a lot of water. That is really where this swim jig shines. Now transitioning out again to that sparse grass, that stuff that's coming up, that's where your chatterbait really shines. Fire that thing out. You're gonna swim it just like a swim bait. Blop, 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 blop. Not a plopper, but you're getting that real blade shake, the real good vibration. And when you hit grass, kind of pop it through, or let it load up and then rip it through. And a lot of times that's when you're gonna get your reactive bite on the chatterbait. So these conditions, this shallow water, the water temps are up, the fish are active, these fish are looking to feed up. You know, it's post-spawn, they're skinny, they are looking to feed up, they're looking to get healthy, and a chatterbait, a swim jig, something moving through that grass really gets them fired up. Now the last bait, or the last category that I wanna talk about, last bait in this category, is an actual crankbait. Not a deep crankbait, but a square bill. Something that's less than 5 feet, let's say. I really like, this is the Crush 50. This is a 6-cent bait. Again, we'll link all of this stuff, all of our favorites in each category down below in the video description, but this is a little Crush 50. It's a silent bait. So when you find that productive grass patch, when you find where those fish are sitting, you know, right now we got, JD's just out here fishing this mouth. There's some grass patches over here, some stuff starting to come up. When you find where those fish are sitting and you get your lineups and you can get this little square bill down there just ticking the tops of the grass, you get hung up every once in a while and you pop it free and pause it. A square bill is a phenomenal way to catch fish this time of the year. Again, I like to throw it on a little heavier line. The heavier line keeps this bait up running shallower than normal. You know, this, I'm throwing it on 15-pound mono tied to a braid to a mono leader, but 15-pound, that keeps that bait from diving too deep and really getting down in that stuff and dredging it up and just messing up your bait each cast. I want this bait getting down just deep enough that the bill is just ticking the tops of that grass and it's getting a deflection, it's getting a directional change, and that's when you're gonna get your bite. When you're reeling down, you hit that grass and you pop it and that bait pops free and cuts to the right or the left, that's when you're gonna get your bite. But a square bill, guys, this time of the year is money. So, we talked about topwater, we talked about flipping, pitching, punching, we talked about worming and fluking and cranking. All those techniques are great ways to really put fish in the boat this time of the year, or fish to the bank, or fish to the float tube, fish in the kayak, whatever you're fishing out of. Those are great ways to catch fish. Now with that said, take a little drink. With that said, this time of the year, fish care is extremely important. Not that it's not every other time of the year, but post-spawn into that warm weather, warm water time, those fish are beat up from the spawn, right? They're skinny, they're hungry, they've done their spawn, they're just beat up, they're tired, they're worn out, they're hungry. When you start catching fish and putting them in a live well this time of the year, maybe you're in a tournament situation, you have to put those fish in a live well, try to keep ice on you. And I'm not talking about a bag of ice. Back when I was tournament fishing, I would take like a 1-gallon jug, like an old milk jug, and fill it full of water and freeze it the night before, because a solid chunk of ice does not melt nearly as quickly as a bag of ice in your live well. We need to keep that water really cool. When these fish are 4 and 5 feet down on the bottom in this shade, the water's considerably cooler than the water that you're pulling off the surface to put in your live well. It can really mess up those fish. So fish care this time of the year, guys, this season, make sure you guys are paying attention. You don't want to live well a bunch of fish. You don't want to do your glory shots, all that stuff, because these fish are hurting, and we want to take care of our fisheries, so it's extremely important this time of the year. Also, you guys that are deep fishing, ledge fishing, deep jig fishing, make sure you guys have something to right the fish in your live well, maybe some kind of weight system or a needle so you can fizz the fish and let out their air bladder, because you don't want them riding upside down in your live well all day, because that, again, will beat them up. Summertime, one of the best times to get out and get a reactive bite, get a topwater bite. Buzzbaits, frogs, wake baits, early morning, late evening. If you have mats or you have structure, when those fish pull in that shade, they're looking to ambush. When you bring that wake bait by, it's game on. If you want to catch them subsurface with a fluke, a worm, or pitching or punching, have at it, guys. But these techniques will really help you guys catch fish this year. If you guys have any questions, please leave them down below in the comments section. We will try and get to those. As always, guys, Matt and I, we really appreciate you guys. We do 3 videos a week, so if you're new to our channel, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. That way you know when we put out new videos. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, like clockwork, guys. We appreciate you. Have a good one.